Welcome to the Elevare podcast. I'm super excited to start this new series that we have with experts and women who have navigated some difficult things. This series is called How She Did It. So we will be having guests that have navigated, whether it's returning to the workforce or going back to school, starting a business, doing something hard that maybe you as a mother are considering doing at some point. Maybe you're in the throes of it now and you want to be able to hear about somebody else who's navigated this, or you're thinking about it. Whatever it may be, we're here to offer some suggestions, advice, and some direction, certainly from women who are strong and very capable. And I'm super excited about our guest. This is Tami Teriipaia, and she is a neighbor and friend. And anyway, she's just amazing. And I'm super excited to have Tami here to be able to address some of the questions that you may have. And we're going to talk a little bit about her journey. And she is an expert in HR. At least I consider her an expert in HR and talent acquisition. And a lot of you may be thinking about returning to the workforce. And you might be wondering, what does that look like now? It's been so long since I've been out of it. How do I navigate this? And so I'd love to be able to ask you questions and be able to share with our audience. So I'd love to hear from you a little bit about yourself and share whatever you care to share with our audience.
I grew up in moving around the country a lot. My dad was an amateur entrepreneur and a gypsy at heart. I probably went to like 10 schools before I was 13. Created early resilience in making friends and learning to navigate hard situations really quickly. I attended Southern Utah University, got a degree in communications, and I am a mother of 5. I have 5 beautiful children that have kept me busy moving around with sports, and currently live in Provo and go to BYU getting my MBA and have work in talent acquisition at Bamboo HR and love what I do.
I love that. So Tami and I met, and it's been, 2 or 3 years now? Mm-hmm. And it's been a wonderful journey for me to be able to get to know you and see what you're accomplishing, both as a student at BYU now and an older student, and then also just the fact that you're in HR and doing really important things for Bamboo HR. So I'm super excited to be able to ask Tami some questions that I've been wondering about all along, and they'll be really helpful to others as well. So I know that you have been through a lot, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but mostly I want to hear about like this journey of becoming. And have you always had confidence? I mean, you've been doing some really hard things, and I just wondered, were you confident all along, or did you have periods of time when you have not had as much confidence in yourself?
That's a good question. Growing up, I was into performing arts and always felt like I could handle the stage. Confidence came openly and naturally. I was raised with parents that fed great things to my soul. And as I grew older and went through some difficulties, your confidence is shaken, and it can take time to rebuild that and to let the world see you, to face your fears, to face reality. I found my favorite quote when I was a senior in high school on my senior trip, and it was on a pen in Catalina Island, and it said, "Dream big, plan well, work hard, smile always, and good things will happen."
Ooh, I love that.
It became my mantra for a lot of the ways that I looked at my experiences in life, and it was simple, but yet every time I would dip down, I would pick that back up and think, "Am I doing each one of these elements?" Because it ends with being happy and knowing that you're of worth.
Yeah. And I think sometimes those quotes help give us more encouragement to carry on when things are difficult. So I know something that you have been through that has been similar to my journey is, you went through a divorce. Tell me a little bit about that transition from your divorce to who you are today and how that might have affected some of that confidence.
Transitions come at different stages of our life, right? And as I transitioned out of that, I found myself a little stripped of goals and understanding and ambition, and you come to a crossroad, like, what do I do next?
But you were working already.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Working full time, and had a flourishing career, still do. Like, I love what I do. but it makes you wonder what's next and how do I get there? Um, I went through a layoff after COVID, and that propelled me to my knees. It the Lord didn't bring you somewhere to lay down and die. It's not an
Mhm.
option. And when I wondered what was next, it took a lot of introspection to ask, receive, be brave, do things that are hard. And I remember just being on my knees going, what's next? I know that you want me to succeed. I know that you want me to be brave. So teach me. And I think it led me through applying to the EMBA program. Um,
Is that something you had wanted to do all along? Like was a master's or,
yeah,
continuing education, was that something on the roadmap always?
multiple times.
Okay.
I think I always knew I wanted to do it, but timing is everything. And finding out. In fact, I had enrolled at other universities and had an experience where I was auto unenrolled because my financial aid didn't come in on time.
Oh,
And
wow. I
I
didn't know
was
that.
like, what? And this was probably, you know, 3 years before I did it. But change allows you to open doors that you wouldn't normally take and see. Safety is in some things. And I wanted to um, embrace, what was in front of me, but it's hard. And I I remember kneeling on my knees in my office trying to write my autobiography and write my admissions letters to get into the EMBA program. And I look at resumes every day. I look at cover letters
Oh,
and
that's true.
do these things, but I couldn't seem to write my own.
Wow.
And I would get on my knees and ask for guidance and get back up and write a little bit more and ask for help. Don't be afraid to advocate with others. But humility and change are the catalysts, I think, for a broken heart and a contrite spirit that allow the Lord to help you move
Yeah.
instead of being
S-
stuck.
So tell me why do you think you found it so hard to do when you see, resumes all the time? Like this is your job to review resumes. Why do you think you found it so hard?
When you go through things that change your own image of yourself, you think, do I have something to give? What does that look like? And it took me asking and interviewing myself, right? To say, what did I do? What am I good at? Where is my evidence? And leaning into my evidence and allowing that to show forth for the things that you did do,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
everything you've done is good and everything you want to do is good. And so that was helpful in not being afraid of my gaps, not being afraid of the things I hadn't done yet,
Mhm.
but embracing what I had done.
Right. Did you know you always wanted to get your MBA versus a master's, or was it something that came to you after you'd gone through your divorce and you realized, like, or you were going through a divorce? Tell me a little bit about that
The
journey.
the choice to get an EMBA for me was a little bit about hard skills and soft skills. I think hard skills are like you have to be able to crunch the numbers, be strategic, I know, um, advocate and be a voice in the room. If you have a seat at the table, you need to use it. And um, transformative, doing hard things, good mentors, as such as yourself. A great example is
Oh,
a
thank
neighbor
you.
and a friend that shared advice, even edited my admissions letter as my dear friend. But she put a voice to what I couldn't seem to articulate. And it's not something you chat GPT, right? It has to be real. And so those are things I think being seen and allowing yourself to be seen um, is something that your Heavenly Father wants you to do, right? You have to look in the mirror and decide that I'm going to value who I am, what I've done. It's not done, it's not over.
No, never is. Yeah. So I love that you navigated this going back to school, getting your now getting your EMBA, which is super exciting. Tell me a little bit, how do you manage your time? I mean, you've got, tell us about your kids, your ages of your kids now, And how do you find that balance? There's really not a balance, as we both know, but what do you do to try to make sure that you're giving time to your family and other areas of your life? You obviously are working full time. How do you find that?
Um, wow. That has definitely been a growth opportunity for me, to decide how am I going to fit an extra 15 hours of schoolwork in per week on top of a 40-hour work week and being a single parent and having good support, but prayed to have. Sorry, I refer to these things a lot because they've been such a guiding
Sure.
cornerstone in my life. But I've been surprised. I'm somebody who goes to bed early, and I have been able to function on less sleep. I know that sounds like counterintuitive, like you need your sleep to be healthy, but it's been something that I can get by with 5 or 6 hours now, where I'd needed 8 before,
Wow.
and I feel vigor. I feel like I can accomplish things. So I do get up at 4:30 every morning, and a professor once said that if you're cracking open your books more than you're leaning into your scriptures, the things that you know bring you guidance and light in your life, we've done you wrong. So I try to balance those needs among all the areas of my life, so that I'm showing up professionally, personally, and also contributing to my education. Um, it's not perfect.
Yeah, you must feel exhausted sometimes.
Oh, for
Like, right,
sure.
right.
Yeah, totally. And there's days when I study next to my daughter. I have 2 desks next to each other in my
Aw,
office now, not 1, 2. And she does her homework next to me. Um, I let my children in on the things that I'm doing. I don't
I love that.
try to hide,
Yeah,
I don't try to I wanted them to feel included, but I didn't want them to be seen as secondary.
yeah.
And so I try very hard to um, share, oh, I know what it's like to be a student too. That is hard.
Yeah.
I got an A, guys. I'm so proud of you. Like
I love that.
share things with them that they're excited about, but also let them know when it's hard too.
Totally. Well, I remember I was getting my executive MBA also at BYU while my daughter was getting her undergrad at BYU. And it's funny because we could talk about like studying and being tired and finals and midterms. And it was just fun to enjoy that season of life together. And when I wasn't feeling very happy about things, she was always very encouraging, like, Mom, come on, you can do this. And I don't know, like sometimes our kids can really be. Did you experience that with your
Yes,
kids supporting you?
absolutely. Um, they see you doing hard things and acknowledge their successes. I didn't think I'd be in college. I have 2 college students, a son on a mission, and then 2 in high school, middle school. Um, and we're doing hard things together, studying at the table. I have a daughter doing nursing, and it's just never ending. But education is the eternal principle, and it doesn't ever go away.
No.
So that's been something that's been fun to share
Yeah. No, I agree. I
with
think that
them.
that's something that you want to learn and get as much education as you can because it's going to serve you better in your life. And the sooner you can get that, the better you'll be able to use it and apply it for everything else. And at least that's how it was for me. I
Mhm,
hope you feel that as well.
mhm.
So tell me a little bit about your career now. So you're in HR and you see applications all the time. Tell me a little bit about, a lot of these women that are watching this podcast or listening to it have maybe thought, okay, well, I've got this huge career break. It's just going to be the worst. Nobody's want to hire me. You see these applicants. What is the advice that you would give a woman who has a career break, a gap, to give her some encouragement, or what's some advice that you would give her?
Yeah. Starting at the bottom is the greatest privilege that you'll ever give yourself.
Hmm.
And I say this because as we come in and out of the seasons of our life, your skills stay with you, but the opportunities will come again.
I love
And
that.
to have faith in that. There's always a new company starting. There's always somebody else that needs an extension that you will be an right prime candidate for. I started out, I did odd jobs through the years, but then when I went back to work full time when my last daughter was born, um, I was trying to find an opportunity that would allow me to use the skills that I had. And I went in as a patient at a dental office and complimented the manager on her processes. And she offered me a job before I left.
Oh,
I had my baby in tow, and she was like, I need you here. And I was like, is this the right time for me? Is this? And to be honest, we were in really bad situation. My spouse at the time was transitioning careers. We
Uh-huh.
were on, government assistance and needed an opportunity. And so I I live by the mantra that sometimes as women you have to, or you want to. And if you prepare for those seasons of your life, you will be able to jump in. So education, always. If you want to, lean into things that you love. If you have to, you're ready.
Mhm.
And I felt like when that opportunity came, I was ready. And it was somebody who acknowledged something, that I had to offer. I spent 5 years at that office,
Wow.
had some great friends, developed some great skills. I went as a front office, man, like desk clerk or whatnot, checking people in, and I ran insurance and did the social media and their marketing and set up processes and learned a whole trade.
Wow.
And then I was managing a staff of 14 when I was done.
Gosh.
And so that was a really good entry, but you had to start somewhere
Yeah.
and allow it to be what it is.
So did you actually have a career gap? Because I know you said had
Mhm.
worked part-time. Did you have a career gap and what did that look like?
I did. I worked full time until my children were 3 and 4. Like I did the babysitter thing where you barely see them. And I was like, I'm at my wit's end. I need to be home. And I took that career gap and I wasn't afraid of it later because when I talk to candidates who have career gaps, I say, embrace it. We all have human experiences. We take care of our family members. We take sabbaticals. We care for loved ones like our parents. We're human. We have sicknesses. We care for people who are sick. So when a hiring manager is speaking with you and you have that career gap on your resume, you want to know that the industry is supposed to control their bias. They are supposed to assume best intentions. One of the favorite things about my company, that's like one of our values.
Mm.
And so good companies these days, now they're not everyone's perfect. There are companies that struggle in that area, but for the most part, people are trying to be their best. And if you acknowledge it and say, yes, this was something that I did, I'm ready to return, you show enthusiasm. On a resume, they only see what they see.
Mhm.
So it's important for you to tell your story, and they're going to interpret it the way you present it. And so it can be a curveball in your life, it can be a pivot, it can be a second time around, which is my favorite because two is more than one.
Oh, I love it.
Don't be scared of it. Later in life, entry. Um, and if you had a career before and then you stayed home, that's something that also makes women say, am I a good enough mother because
Mm.
I was manager before and now I'm not. Maybe I should return to the workforce because I'm not getting
Wow.
the same
Yeah.
success here. The seasons of life don't dictate your value. The seasons of life are the waves that we ride. And if you do it with grace and and humility and humor and hope, then it's easier.
Mm. So would you say it's better for a mother who's, returned to the workforce to actually just own it, I guess, and just be, proud that they had this time to be taken care of. Maybe it's a, aging parent or it's their children. How should they refer to themselves on the resume during that period of time? Would they say, household manager, home CEO? What have you seen that resonates with you when you see a career gap on a resume?
Yeah. Well, it's nice to see that women or candidates have tried to gain education on their own. When was the last time that you self taught yourself something?
Mhm.
That you seek out certifications or opportunities? Like I said, your skills stay with you. And so, a freelancer, a contractor,
Okay.
nonprofit organization. So, if you're involved in the PTA, if you're involved in school councils, city city adventures, those are wonderful things to put as like nonprofit work. And then also, if you have kept up a side business of any sort, calculate those time frames. And it's very common to see people go from startup to corporate to freelance.
Mhm.
Like even executive level have freelance periods between positions.
That's a good point.
It's not just for entry
Yeah.
entry back into the workforce.
Yeah, I tell women who have a skill set like graphic design or marketing or things like that, and they take a gap, they're taking a break to take care of their family or whatever, to continue to volunteer, help friends who are working on things like, I would always tell, women, if there's a chance for you to volunteer at the school using some of those skills that you acquired when you were in
Mhm.
school, getting your degree, or maybe you worked in the workforce before you became a stay-at-home mom, then try to use those again in volunteer kind of capacity. So that's kind of what you're saying, right? Just
Mhm.
make sure you're keeping up those skills in
Mhm.
like a freelance position
Yeah.
or nonprofit kind of. Okay.
Yes, creative outlets can lead to opportunity. They are your skills that develop. Everyone started somewhere, right? The vision you saw behind something could become the website of another, and leaning into those skills continuously keep you active, your mind active, and keep you feeling alive too.
Totally. How, like when you talk about those skills, what are some ways that they can articulate the skills that they've acquired as a mother that then transfer into the workforce? Like tell me a little bit about if you were listening to a candidate talk about that career gap, what would you expect them to say to you?
Well, we're looking for evidence. Look, I refer back to that because you want to know, how did they get the information for that experience? What role did you play? What problem were you trying to solve? What was the outcome? These are a playbook
Mm.
for any industry, for any level role, because people can hear you and understand you when you have your own experience with something. It talks way different than, I was on a committee, that did this. This is the role I played. This is the outcome. This was the problem. These are the skills that I learned. And that speaks volumes more than sometimes years in the industry.
And I love that you reminded me of something. When I got my job at Amazon Web Services, we had to speak in terms of what was the problem, what was the solution, the outcome, and I think that's really important to articulate. So, in other words, you can talk about your experience if you had this career gap. What did you learn during that time, right? You can talk about challenges that you had to negotiate. You can talk about some of those experiences in terms of, okay, I learned a lot from this, and this is who I became because of it, and these were the outcomes. Is that what you're
Yes,
basically
the
suggesting?
becoming part of it, I think, is the value add, because people hire you for your technical chops or your design chops or your organizational skills, but they also hire you to be an addition to the organization. We call it a culture ad, and they want to see confidence. They want to see humility. How do those coexist? Well, because we all need to exemplify those things in the way that we work, integrate, collaborate, and help in any team that we're on. Are we approachable? Are we teachable? Are we coachable? Are we flexible? Are we adaptable?
Totally.
Life skills happen while you live. And so when you can articulate the way that you moved through the seasons of your life, others can feel that. Genuine people can feel that. And time over time, when I see scorecards come through, they'll talk about, well, they have to assess both, but culture ads have more points
So
than
tell us about the
technical.
scorecard.
Yeah.
If to the audience that may not know
Okay. A
what that is.
scorecard is an assessment that is taken after somebody goes through an interview. We try really hard to assess, creativity, coachability. They ask certain questions relevant to the position. Do you have X amount of years in a position? Um, do you exemplify the ability to communicate? Um, like I said, those skills are a good mix of hard and soft, and so they come through with reviews. And at the very end, we want to have like a quantitative versus like an opinion based
Totally. Yeah.
assessment. That's a healthy way to be assessed in an interview.
I love that. Something else that I didn't know when I returned to the workforce was I didn't understand what the difference was between a hiring manager and a recruiter. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I remember thinking, what's what is a hiring manager versus a recruiter?
Yeah. So as a recruiter, we're looking for talent in the market. We can source them on LinkedIn. That's why it's important to have a LinkedIn profile. We call on referrals, and we go through resumes and applications as people organically apply. Um, A hiring manager is the person that you would report into or would have decision making power within your organization to advocate for you or to work with you, to assess as a cross collaborator, to work, okay, pause, to work as a cross collaborator on a team that you would be a part of.
And I thought that was interesting because I would, you first interview with the recruiter. In fact, just tell the process to some of the women that may be wondering, like, what can I expect when I submit my resume?
Mhm,
And tell me a little bit what the process is
mhm.
for that.
When speaking with a recruiter, it's always good to know that have a base knowledge of the company. You can get that on the website. You can get it through, you can even ask ChatGPT about businesses in the area to give you a lay of the land, values that are important to the company. And that helps you just prepare a little bit more. And so, as you have knowledge of the company, they're going to ask you basic questions, about about your experience relatable to the position. I always want people to feel comfortable speaking with me. I want them to be able to let down the professional side and feel at ease to share what's really important to them, what they're experiencing, because I can't advocate for you if I don't know your story. The hope and goal is that I can turn you so that all of your, whether it's benefits that you have questions about, whether it's flexibility in the workplace that you have questions about, your progress, your ability to go back to school or to gain different skills. Um, what is the overall goal of my position look like on a day to day basis? We want to answer all those questions for you so that you feel prepared to turn to the manager with the P's and Q's of your life answered and present yourself in a way that's ready to go. Your questions are answered, you're calm, you're excited, and then the manager's allowed to only talk with you about your talents and the things that you need.
Mhm.
You could talk about compensation with the recruiter, and I feel like that's a place for you to be real so that you don't have to talk about those things sometimes with the hiring manager. Now, that doesn't mean that some businesses don't ask the hiring manager to do that, but you'll get an assessment of appropriate conversations to have per business unit.
So, what do you think is the average time? So, if a woman is, she's applied, she gets called up by the recruiter, and has that initial conversation. How long does it usually take, and on average, to go from that first interview to getting
Mhm.
actually the job offer? Do you?
Ooh,
Because I know every company's different. For
yeah.
example, I one company I interviewed literally with 13 different people, and it took 3 months, and then I
Yes.
was given the offer. So
Yes. And some of those are big name companies
yeah,
like Amazon.
yeah, they
It
were
can be,
fast. 2 weeks.
oh,
Yeah.
fabulous. Industry average is 30 days. Like our we call it our time to fill. That's a metric that I'm held accountable to.
Yeah.
But we as a recruiter also you want to set the stage for what the interview process looks like and how long you should hear, how to communicate with them through email, through text, when is it appropriate to hear back, and they should set the stage so that you understand. But some companies are a black hole. Knowing even before you go in can be self-soothing because the job hunt and applying for jobs can be an emotional roller coaster. It can be very exhausting. So you have to put your pants on, pull up your skirt, walk, and understand that it might take longer and you don't want to put a story to it. There's things going on behind the scenes like HR communicating with the manager who went on vacation, and FP&A, which is our compensation benchmarking, has to approve different things. Scorecards aren't in. So there's play in the business unit happening differently. But on average, you can see interviews happen like a few days apart from each other, but they will give you ample notice. And it's good practice for businesses to go off your schedule as a candidate so that you're showing up best in your life, prepared for that time to speak.
And I'm so glad you talked about expectations, right? So we need to understand as the candidate that if we're applying for a job, that we have some patience because there are some things, like you said, that are going behind the scenes that you don't even know about. But I can't tell you how many times I've applied for jobs and I got an initial interview and I never heard back at all. Like I went into this black hole, and I would call somebody else and say, whatever happened with this? Is this still open? Oh no, this closed and you didn't know? Yeah. Like,
Hmm.
why do you think that happens?
Well, different companies have different volume of business and different staff. My company has quite a few recruiters, and they have the candidate journey is highly protected, and they want people to be treated with respect. Doesn't mean other companies don't, but some companies are large and they have a lot of applications, and so email.
Point.
Yeah, but I would say in general, to receive an email after the first round is appropriate, but it's always nice for recruiters to call somebody after they've come into the office and have a phone call conversation. And some people are open to feedback and some aren't. So we try to
Um,
just give a delivery of respect and say thank you for your time. Another note to take is that if you interviewed, you're qualified,
I love that.
because some people will ask varying questions like, why didn't I get it? There's always somebody's profile that has a little bit more experience in one area, a little bit more in another, a team, a personality that may have jived better with another person that wasn't even in the interview process that
Oh
they knew
yeah.
would work with that person.
Mhm.
That makes them the best fit. But if you're in like the top five, give yourself a pat on the back.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. I think we don't give ourselves enough credit of like just getting through to an interview
Hmm.
is huge because so many people apply and don't ever get any response,
Hmm.
right? I think I applied to, like, I want to say 80 companies before I got my first job because
Yeah.
I mean, this is when I returned to the workforce. It was just really challenging and hard. Tell me a little bit about what you wish that candidates knew either about their resume or LinkedIn. Is there something that you wish candidates knew to do beforehand or be prepared for that
Hmm.
they might not
I've spent quite a few years in university recruiting as well, working with interns, and students have profiles, right? And they have limited professional work experience, but they still have things that they're working on. As adults returning to the workforce, we should have a LinkedIn profile.
know?
So having confidence to fill out whatever you can, I think is the number one thing. A good picture, a good background. It's self-propelled, really. LinkedIn has, it's like plug and play. You go in, you fill out. So just keep filling it out, of skills, things that you've worked on, organizations, and I love that it's logoed. Logos
Ah,
can make you look pretty good,
that's
like
true.
companies that you've been a part of. If you're part of a school district, there's your school district, logo on there, and a place for people to give reviews of your work and their opportunities to be with you. Another thing I like about LinkedIn is that you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself.
That's true.
Internally, they'll give you a job title internally, but we always tell people on LinkedIn, what would you like to call yourself? And it's a safe place to do so. Add senior level, or freelance, or professional, and in your description of who you are and the work that you've done, this is your time to shine, just like a resume or a cover letter. um, Play to your own, like, love, play to the things that are important to you and how you would describe yourself, and allow that to be a place of self-expression, and an ever-evolving document. It's not one and done.
Well, and we need to have a whole session. We could have a whole podcast session just on LinkedIn because it's what is done now. I mean,
Mhm.
if you haven't been in the workforce for a while, you might not have a LinkedIn profile, but this is something you need to do for sure. Well, you have been so helpful, and I always like to ask a couple fun questions. So I wanted to ask you, what's your guilty pleasure that gets you through stressful days?
This is really bad. It's Diet Coke.
It's okay. It's
No,
okay.
yeah, guilty pleasure. Diet Coke popcorners, and what
Love
I know
popcorners.
they're crunchy. I hope you get through stressful times.
I love popcorns.
Good podcasts, and calling a friend for 10 minutes instead of scrolling social media.
Call a
I call a
person.
friend,
I love that.
call a lifeline.
I love it.
You know,
We should do that more. And then lastly, what small habit or daily ritual do you do um, that can help, that has helped create a big impact on your success?
um, this one is something that I do every Sunday, and it's like my master list or my brain dump of sorts. and I pull all my calendars together from school, work, kids' schedules, things that are important in my life, and I make a one pager. And it sits on my desk all week. And I write out every single thing that all these merged calendars do. But I also make a list of things that I hope to do. And
Hmm.
on the flip side, and write down like call the doctor, buy this at the store. It's more than just calendar events. They're things that could distract me in my life. And it's like a big post it note for me. And I keep it by my desk. So when I have those 10-minute spurts, things throughout my day, I feel like I can achieve the small things and check them off. Because who doesn't think checking a list off is powerful? But it keeps me set. And it's a part of my ritual every Sunday. I'm like, I can conquer this week. And it's a Tetris for if I need a carpool or if I
Hmm.
need help here. And it allows me to be fluid instead of stuck.
I love that. Okay, one pager. You put on your desk, put it, on your dresser, wherever you're going to be in the house. You can see regularly. And on the flip side are the things you want to get done that are those nice to have kind of things, or are those definitely ones you want to get done during the week? I'm just curious.
Have to get done.
Have to get done. Okay.
Yes.
Like your to-do list is on the back
Yeah.
side. Okay.
And then I'm like, if I have to add things to my grocery list, it's
I love it. I love it.
things
Okay.
done.
I'm gonna try that. I always love, hearing about people's hacks. So master list, and I think I'm gonna have to do that. Well, Tami, you are just such a delight. It's so fun to have you on this podcast, and hopefully you benefited a lot. I even learned a lot from hearing from Tami. And if you want to learn more about return to the workforce and how you might be able to gain from some of the skills that I've acquired over time, and certainly the guests, go to elevera.com and learn more. And hopefully we can help you gain confidence and return to the workforce. So thanks for being with us.